Hello and welcome to the next in my Cthulhu Wars series. We're going to be looking at the map packs, so we look at them individually. We've got Primeval Earth, Dreamlands, Yuggoth, and the Library of Solanio, if I remember. Yes, Solanio. Anyway, let's delve into them, but before I do that I just want to quickly cover off some bits that I missed in the last video. There are several PDFs available online at the Peterson website. The Colours Out of Space is alternative rules for the coloured gates, so if you don't want to use them as your starting gates, you can actually use them as sort of random effects. Also, there are some PDFs for High Priests, so Joseph Curwen, for example, Beyond the Spheres. After any player's action, you may eliminate Curwen and either remove your controlled gate, but not its controller, from anywhere on the map, or place a new gate in any area in which you have a unit. So, you've got various powers. There's about 8 of them. And as I say, these are PDFs. I don't think there's any plans to make them available. Some people are asking about maybe Onslaught 3 having them. We haven't had a commitment yet, as far as I'm aware, for that. Now, CWE14 is the thing that made a bit of a noise in the last video. It actually fell off the table and I neglected to pick that up. Basically, it's some variant dice. So for various factions, you've got these dice which I think go from 1 to 8, depending on which dice we're talking about, to do sort of weird random number generation. I'm going to need to read the Omega rulebook to remind myself of exactly what the purpose of these are. But basically, yellow sign gets a particular power. Well, you roll this dice and get that. Now, as I say, some of these dice I think are just plain old 1 to 6, but some of them I think go up as high as 8 on the face. So more of that when we get round to the Omega rulebook. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with the maps, and we're going to start with Primeval Earth. On opening the box, we have a little rulebook that gives you the optional rules. You get some pretty pictures. This one's quite short, less than 8 pages. So you've got the components, which is a double-sided map with some glaciers. There's some setup, what the glaciers actually do, which is pretty cool, and an FAQ, and that's it. So this is one of the simpler expansions from a kind of extra rules load. Of course, it does have major impacts on the gameplay because the glaciers effectively neutralize gates, and gates therefore become what's the official wording they use? It's not control, is it? Anyway, they become abandoned, that's the word. And abandoned gates give power to all players. So as the glaciers appear, gates get locked down. And so if you've got 6 gates out there with glaciers on, everyone gets 6 power. So that's pretty impressive. Let's have a look. Yeah, so each turn, basically, 2 areas get a glacier, assuming they have a glacier glyph, and you can't place glaciers where a glacier already exists. The actual glacier locks into the gate and deactivates it. There are some shenanigans, for example, Opener of the Way. He basically, counts as a gate, but also is immune and can do shenanigans with the glaciers. It'd be interesting to see how Windwalker interacts with that. But there you go. There's that. Not much more to say about it. So we'll have a look at the map last. So let's have a look at the components, which are absolutely gorgeous. Look at these. These translucent plastic. They're not glow in the dark as far as I can tell, but the light shines through the different densities of the plastic and the ink that they've used to stain it this lovely kind of greeny blue, more green than blue. Just lovely, really, really nice. Very impressed with the jagged shapes and everything. They look fantastic. Really pleased to grab these. Tell you what, I'll sort that out in a sec. Let's have a look at the map. This is a 3-player side. And as you can see, it's got some lovely iconography. You've got the glacier glyphs, so this is an area that can be locked down by glaciers, basically forcing people into the middle. And on this side of the map, we've got Mu, Terra Australis, and a little bit of Atlantis. which is bang in the middle. So yeah, basically everyone's going to be pushed into Atlantis by the looks of it to fight in the long run. There are a couple of oceans, I think, that managed to escape. So for example, Tethys, which I believe is actually a historical name for an ocean that was believed to exist in our past. Some of these other names, obviously, more the works of Conan Doyle, HPL, Ramsay, etc. So we've got Lemura, which again is another place that is spared the savage glaciers by the looks of it. And I think, yes, these two oceans. So pretty much these 4 locations are where we're going to fight. Let's have a look at the maps overall. So there you go. So 3-player, fairly Spartan. If we flip over to 5-player, we get a lot more territory to fight over, which is, in my opinion, much more interesting. I think the game plays best with 4 players. Be interesting to see now we can go to 8 players, just how crazy that gets. But yes, look at that. Much more interesting map. Couple more areas to fight over. You know, Thule, get a space there. So yes, very impressive. It's going to change up how the game plays, and that's what's really good about these map packs. If you are getting bored of the base game, you can buy a map pack and, you know, fairly cheaply mix up your game, give you alternative strategies to try. Certain old ones will become more powerful or less powerful based on the availability of, for example, water and special areas. Anyway, that is a quick look at Primeval Earth. Let's move on to the next one, which is Dreamlands. We have the Dreamlands here, slightly bigger rulebook on this one. It's a good 10 pages, pretty pictures. We've actually got some funky miniatures, so if it will focus a bit better, there you go. We've got Zoogs and a bowl. We've also got, again, a double-sided map, and there's some funkiness with this because it has tunnels, and unlike regular Cthulhu Wars, the map is actually 2 separate maps that are interconnected, and there are also some funky rules around citadels, which you're fighting to control, and you've got to be very careful because is there 4 per map? Well, there might be more than 4 per map, but if anyone controls 4 per map, basically they can win the game instantly. So you've got to be keeping an eye out for that. Does mean people with teleportation and movement shenanigans do have a slight advantage on this. There are obviously rules about the bowl, who starts off on the table in the Underworld, and it moves around randomly attacking people. Same with the Zoogs, except they start on the surface, and it's going to be good to see the miniatures for these. Bit of pretty artwork, and then an FAQ, which mostly seems to be around the opener of the way because they've got all sorts of shenanigans that they can do. So yes, that's a nice rule book that's going to need a bit of reading because this map's a little bit more involved than, for example, Primal Earth. So the minis are a sort of weird kind of chocolatey purple. Now let's not get all of them out. This figure is lovely. I'm not sure if it's going to show up very well. It's this kind of weird, kind of demonic tentacled rat sitting on a kind of twisted palm tree type thing. It's fantastic little mini. I really do like it. Little bit top heavy maybe if I'm criticizing it. Maybe the base could be a little bit bigger or the mini a little bit smaller relative to the base, but yeah, it's pretty stable. But I could see that being an issue. Unlike this beastie, which is a little bit big. Let's just rotate that so we get all of it in. But yeah, that's really cool mini. Yeah, that would be great as a Dune worm or a purple worm for D&D. So this mini would work really great for other games as well. But yeah, it's a fantastic little mini. I really do like that. Anyway, let's stop drooling over plastic and look at the map. Well, we have the Dreamlands here, and it's a bit of a weird map because the ocean does not wrap around to the other side. This map actually has an edge. You can see we got Tunnel A, Tunnel D, just about to see a couple of citadels with numbers, which are for making random effects with the denizens of the Dreamlands. And this is the surface we're looking at over here. And if I just move the Underworld on top, so this is the other maps, as you can see, D links up here, A's up in the top corner, we've got a couple of citadels, and the terrain doesn't actually match up quite perfectly, which is, you know, part of the Dreamland weird dreamlike quality. Lots of really cool nods to the stories, you know, Plane of Ghouls, etc. And yeah, it's an interesting little map. Now this is the 5-player side, and it doesn't have too many territories. If I flip over to the 3-player side, it's got even less territories. So this is a very tight, sort of aggressive game, I would suggest. But the thing is, you can deploy to above or below ground, and you've got to be keeping an eye on both. So again, another interesting twist on the way of playing the game. Let's slide that out and have a look at the Surface 3-player. There you go. So really tight little fight, and let's have a look at the overall picture. So you've got to keep an eye on this map, but also keep an eye on this map, because they are in fact actually separate. They're not joined, and you have to go through tunnels to hook up between the two maps, and, you know, keep a very close eye on people trying to control these areas. So very, very interesting concept. Anyway, that's Dreamlands. I think that's going to be quite a map to play on. Anyway, what to do next? I think a visit to Pluto is in order. Okay, so as you're probably used to by now, wgah'nagl, or Pluto, comes with a rulebook, 14 pages on this one, and it also comes with some slime mould, some brain cases, and some bits which I haven't quite worked out what they're for yet, because I haven't actually had a read of the rules. I've only literally just opened this box. Obviously we then got map and some minis as well, so quite a fun expansion this. So what we got? Well, we have a watcher, slime molds, 28 brain cylinders, some tokens, a loyalty card for the slime, bit of a setup, talks about the laboratory, the slime seas, the green pyramid, which is where I believe the watcher hides, which is this freaky kind of elder thing like figure, and then extended play example, and some frequently asked questions. So this is a step up over the other maps we've looked at in complexity. Now, I can't remember if this was an Onslaught 2 map, whereas I think the other two were available in Onslaught 1. I'm pretty sure the library at Solanio is definitely an Onslaught 2 map. But yeah, this has quite a lot going on by the looks of it, so really, really going to mix up your game. So the setup, yeah, place your thing, get your dude, okay. Ooh, okay. All sorts of little bits and pieces there. Going to have a good read of this. There are some funky bits. Now there is a surgery action, which is a new action you can do, which is based on who controls the laboratory, and there's quite a lot of stuff about that, and by the looks of it, it's allowing you to create brain cylinders. They are effectively a cultist. Looks like you can't move, and I'm guessing they don't do much in combat terms. I do vaguely remember reading about this. Can't be assigned pain in battle. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. And you need to capture them, basically, to get rid of them. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff about that. Obviously the slimes, bits and pieces there. Anyway, let's have a look at the tokens. Nice, pretty tokens. Now, I'm guessing these can be replaced by the minis that we looked at in the Onslaught extras video. And then you've got the little triangles, I guess, you know, who owns the lab, something to do with slime, no slime, and the the big pyramid structure. Let's get the map out of the way, look at the minis, and then we'll come back to the map. So yeah, this one, I'm definitely going to have a good read of this rulebook to work out what's going on. So here's the Watcher, which, as I say, is a little bit Elder Thing-like. It's not quite like an Elder Thing, but just reminds me a little bit. It's in the same sort of chocolatey purple that we had in our Dreamlands map. Then we've got some neutral slimes. We've got quite a few of them. They are great. They are suitably slimy. Yeah, I guess if you were to paint them, a nice bit of glossy varnish would work well. So let's see if we can get that put away. Now, my only criticisms of this box is obviously making sure you don't damage the map. If you don't put your figures in here quite right when you put your map on, you could risk denting it, I guess. But you could always put the map on the bottom and then rest the figures on top if you're really paranoid about that. Or just be extra careful putting stuff away. Anyway, to the map. So once more, we're looking at a 5-player side. It's got some lovely little artwork, and it's great to see the surface of Pluto finally, home of the MyGo, of course. Now, there are some symbols talking about whether you can and can't have slime. There's the lab up there. Oh, the Tindalos steps, that doesn't look good. Good old Hounds of Tindalos. And then over on the other map, Methane Sea, Ammonia Sea, Nitrogen Sea, the pyramid here where the Watcher actually lives, and there are some random dice rolls that need to occur by the looks of it. And we've also got a map that wraps around again. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, let's have a quick overall look at this map. So there you go, funky layout there. And let's flip us across to the 3-player option. Try and be careful with that, don't want to damage the board. So there you go, slightly simplified layout. Let's take care of the other side. And there you go, so that's the 3-player side, slightly simpler layout. And yeah, again, another interesting twist on the basic rules. This one's going to take me a little bit more time to get my head round, and I think I'm going to have a similar problem with the library, because I haven't seen anything about the library or this map. I have a bit more awareness of Dreamlands and Primeval Earth. So talking of which, let's get to the last map. So another packed box. This one feels heavier than some of the others. A nice big chunky rule book. So how many pages have we got here? Okay, 10, so potentially a little bit simpler than Yoggoth. We've got double-sided map board, some hint cards, some library tomes, some silence tokens, an agony die, a couple of figures. We've got some setup, we've got some funky stairwells that allow you to move between floors and things. Library tome, silence tokens. The figures are the custodian and the librarian. Some pretty artwork and an FAQ. So, you know, they're all following a similar pattern. The tokens are large, pretty looking things. We have some weird little powers. We've then got the maps, which we will look at shortly, and then look at this. Hint cards, a dice in a rather ridiculous well, so lots of room to store stuff here. I guess when you punch out the tokens, a nice space for that. Then we've got a freakish librarian here. Yeah, let's see if we can move this camera angle a bit, and I don't know, is that going to work? So yeah, really weird. Again, great job on the miniatures, and then this horrible kind of, I don't know, beetle meets crab. It's a weird thing. So yes, very nice job on the sculpts. Really freakish looking things. Anyway, to the maps. Well, this is the 5-player side of our library with a few doors at the top, which you might just about catch in picture. We've got these staircases, various rooms, some just weird, stuff going on. Statue there. Over on this side, we've got areas where you can put your tomes, which are those bits where you could punch out. Floating tower just up the top there. Various weird bits and pieces. Anyway, let's do our now traditional overall look. So yeah, quite a busy looking board, this one. Let's see, is it a little bit less chaotic if we switch over to the 3-player side? A little bit easier on the eye. Let's see, other side here. Yeah, not quite so busy, but yeah, is it going to be as interesting with 3 players? As I say, I'm not always so keen on Cthulhu Wars with 3 players. I think it doesn't work as well. Still a good game, works well even with 2 players, but definitely 4 players seems to be the sweet spot for me. I have actually popped out the tokens, and as you can see, they dropped nicely into this big pocket here, and then I'm guessing these guys go on here so you can do some bits and pieces with them. And yeah, overall an interesting map. Again, though I'm not 100% sure how this one works, haven't really done much reading on this, but definitely with these 4 map packs, it really changes up the game by the looks of it, giving you kind of 5 games in one effectively. So very keen to get these to the table at some stage. I'm going to try playing just the core game initially, just to get back into the groove with it, and also to try out some of these other boxes which we haven't even got near yet.